Hey, everybody, welcome back to View from the Top podcast, where we help growth-minded men who desire momentum in their business, their family, and their finances get through those valleys and up the mountain to their very own view from the top. Hey, got a question this week again for you listeners out there. You guys listen out there in the audience. As a solopreneur, if you're a solopreneur today, that means that you're the guy that's kind of like doing it yourself. Maybe you have a contractor or two helping you. Maybe even have an employee, but you're kind of like that guy. It's like you're on that solopreneur journey. How many decisions do you have to make today? Like how many you have to make this week? What about this month? Right? As a fellow business owner, husband and father, investor, and friend to you guys, it seems I'm making those decisions, tons of them all the time, especially when I was a solopreneur. So actually an HBR, so a Harvard Business Review study reports that we make 33 to 35,000 decisions per day. I don't know if I agree with that completely. That's a lot, but man, I know we make a lot of decisions. So even if it's half of that, 15,000 decisions a day, while some of these decisions are minuscule and they really don't matter that much, there are enough of them that have had a huge impact on my marriage, my children, my business, my finances, my spiritual journey, and I need other men that I trust, a tribe to belong to. And for myself, I choose Iron Sharpens Iron, ISI community. If you want to be connected and engaged with a growing group of growth-minded Christian businessmen and leaders who are also making informed, vetted decisions through a biblical lens, go check out the ISI community for yourself at isibrotherhood.com. That's isibrotherhood.com. You can use code POD30, POD30 on the payment screen, and we'll give you access free for 30 days. All right. So we've covered that. Without further ado, let's get the guy that doesn't have to comb his hair every morning in the studio. Welcome, Big A.
You know how much I've saved on haircuts and shampoo? That's the reason I bought my new boat.
I just spent $40 on a haircut yesterday.
I know. So, I used it as an excuse. I said, Robin, look at the money for 25 years I've saved. Let me just buy a new boat. She goes, go buy it. So I said, there's my haircut out there.
How's it going, my head off, I can tell my wife I'm going to buy a new boat.
Yeah, you can get a new boat.
That's not a bad deal.
$40. I don't know, Wally. Did you get your money's worth there? Maybe you did.
That's rough.
Hey, I put a post out on Facebook not long ago, and it was just saying that question, like, what do you pay for a haircut? And I was amazed. Like, I haven't had a haircut in 25 years. They're paying 50 to $75 for a haircut. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I
paid 20 for the haircut, and then I tipped 20.
Oh, yeah.
Just because they did a great job. Yeah, they did a great job.
Well, I don't know. That's up for debate. But anyway, no, I'm just kidding. Everything going well, Wally? You had a good week?
Yeah, things are going good, man. Been a good week. We're heading into fall here in Tennessee. That's a whole different experience than Michigan. But I'm getting to like it. It's growing on me. And I'm looking forward to some cooler weather, though.
You said earlier that the decisions that we have to make, 35,000 decisions.
Is that crazy?
Harvard,
I have a hard time believing that, but man,
I don't know.
It's a
but
lot,
if you think about, here's the thing, you're not factoring into that. You just think about big decisions about what I'm going to do on this project, but it's like it's every move. Like, where do I go here and pick up this and take that? We probably do if we could calculate it. Here's what I want to talk about, though. When I was putting together the notes for our show, thinking about that just a little bit, Robin and I kind of get into these disagreements oftentimes about making decisions. And I'm not dogging on her because we all make decisions differently.
Sure.
But I've been in business for 46 years. And so I have to make a decision pretty quick. When we were in retail business, we had numbers of locations and you're answering questions all day long, every day. And so now we get into this disagreement between Robin and I. She'll ask me a question and I'll immediately just answer. And she's like, you didn't even think about that. And then I thought about thinking about it and I'm like, well, it's not that important to me, that thing. Like if it's something that's really, I'll get the consensus of others. Yeah, I know. And I was careful even when I said it to her. But it was like, now, if you want to talk about something different, like maybe will require more. But it dawned on me as being a small business owner, how we have trained ourselves over the course of our careers to make decisions faster. And we're going to dive in.
Our filter muscles up a lot faster. Yeah,
it is. But you also prioritize the things that are important, that are going to move the needle, and things that are not important.
Well,
I think there's a lot of skills. Yeah, I hope we do too.
I've had some challenges myself, done well at times, and met some other people that haven't too. So,
well, there's a lot of important variables when it comes to being a solopreneur. We're going to talk about that today. But I really think that this episode is pretty important because it highlights the traits that can really make or break your journey as a solopreneur. The things that we want to talk about today. And I thought it would be helpful to provide some practical tips to help you thrive in this demanding, ever-changing business environment that we find ourselves in now. It's like, I'm just going to say it straight up. I think it's harder now to do business than it was 20, 25 years ago. I don't know if it's the amount of competition or technology. Technology can make it simpler, but can also make it more difficult. But I think if we can master these traits as a solopreneur, I think we'll be better equipped to overcome any obstacles. It'll help us stay focused, and we can achieve what we all want to do, and that's get that long-term success. And so, yeah, I just want to dive into a couple of things and talk about them today. And before
we dive in, I actually want to challenge you on something that I disagree a little bit.
I love it when you disagree, Wally.
Yeah.
Disagree with me.
I hear what you mean when you say it's like, if I'm thinking about the solopreneur right now, and we're going to cover these 4 traits today that are paramount.
Yeah.
When I think about that solopreneur and thinking, oh man, it's harder to start a business today or launch a business or grow a business today than it was so many years ago. I don't know if I agree with that.
It's easier to start the business.
I think
but
in
to
a lot
have
of ways,
successful business, I think it can be more difficult. There's more competition today.
Yeah. There's also more opportunity. So
no, there is. No, I'm saying I agree with you completely. I agree with you.
I hear the heart of what you're saying. I think there's pros and cons. I'm not pros and cons, but like there's things that maybe were easier and harder.
Yeah.
30, 40, 50 years ago.
Right.
And there's things that are easier and harder and more challenging today.
That's true. It goes both ways.
So I think they balance out. Yeah. They're just different. And that's so I think about that. Yeah. So
you won me over. That's rare, but you won me over. You disagreed, and then you've presented a different light, and I agree. So take it as a win today, because I don't normally agree, but I agree.
Right, that's fair.
I think you're right.
I
think you're right. Listen, I think first and foremost, self-discipline is paramount. And I'll be honest with you, that's a challenge. I don't know about for you. For me, certain things are not that difficult. Like I've been a small business owner my whole life since I was 18. I'll be 64 this coming birthday. And staying on track can really be tough until we really structure our day. And you've got to be really good at that. And I wasn't good at that. And I had to get help. I had to get coaching. I had to get mastermind guys to help me. I had to enlist people to help me get better organized. So where do you fall on that spectrum? Like self-discipline, like how are you? And I know it's different for different people on different things, but overall, how do you rank your self-discipline?
Well, I think when you're first starting out, and we're talking primarily to solopreneurs today, but there's obviously carryover, right? In these traits and disciplines of running a business. They're not exclusive to being a solopreneur, but we're talking to you guys today as solopreneurs. So, probably more than likely, if you're the solopreneur, you're in what I would call the earlier stages of your business development. Not that you can't be a solopreneur and be doing it for 20 years. You can. It's unlikely, right? Normally, you're going to have a team member somewhere along the way where that introduces, other challenges and other opportunities. But today as a solopreneur, you're in the solopreneur, you're in the beginning stages of your business primarily. And so you probably have a lot of passion already, right? That passion and that excitement for what's possible
carries you for a period,
does drive self-discipline.
Yeah.
Right. But I want to read this. So here's a definition of self-discipline. Self-discipline is the ability to control your actions, decisions, and behavior, and to make yourself do what you know is right, even when you don't want to. So I was talking to a guy this week, and he mentioned it was coming off of our roundtable call in the ISI community yesterday. So we do some teaching on a topic during this call for 30, 40 minutes. And then we break out into smaller groups of 8 to 10 guys, like in smaller mastermind groups. We just have that once a month in the community. It's pretty cool. But so I broke out into a smaller group for, 30 minutes with, I think there was 8 guys in there. And we have some questions that we work through based on what the topic was we were talking about. And this particular thing was on, going next level. And it was around this idea, this one particular topic we're talking about was self-discipline. And one of the things that guys are struggling with, he's a solopreneur, has a 3/4 time job, and then he works like 50% on this startup, right? So he's solopreneur getting going. And he's talking about, this is to your point of that it's harder today. There are more distractions today.
There are, yeah.
Than there ever have been. And that's where a solopreneur with self-discipline can get really in trouble. Like if you think about it, I think it's like this. Here's the math. If you watch TV, be on your phone, let's just watch TV, right? Streaming TV, 3 hours a night. And do that 5 days a week. It takes you 13.8 years to become a 10,000 hour expert TV watcher. 10,000 hours over 13, almost 14 years. Now, that doesn't seem like a long period of time, but you look back on your career, I look back on my career, I look back at the businesses I started, and like all of a sudden, Dave Ramsey's famous for saying this, that people came to him and was like, "Oh man, you crushed it." He's like, "Yeah, it was a 25-year overnight success."
Right.
So it took self-discipline at some level for all of us. And I think the more self-discipline that we can have, especially around those distractions that don't contribute to the goals that we have. And the goals that we have as a small business owner and as a solopreneur, yes, the goals in the business are super important, right? But self-discipline also carries over into our family. The time with our wife, the time with our kids. If I could carve off an hour each night and go back for myself when I first started, right? If I could just carve out a little more time, I would, going back now, and I would do it. Even if it pushed me to take a little bit longer, right? Not much, but just a little bit longer to start getting more momentum. If I could go back, because there was things that I know I missed because I didn't have the self-discipline, right?
I wonder why we can't see that. I wonder why we can't see that as intellectual beings now when we have young families. Just intellectually sit down and go, you know what? These kids are only going to be here 15, 16 years. They're going to get their license. Why can't we discipline ourselves and say, you know what? I'm going to build those boundaries, those guardrails. I'm going to have accountability. I only get one go through with these kids. I don't get a second chance. Like I need to make it count. And that was really heightened my awareness when I came home with that pocket full of money to a house full of strangers. And Robin goes, I don't want to be a single mom, right? I want you to help me. I want you to be here. It's like, if you guys hear anything, reorient your thinking to prioritize what's important in life and go, hey, my family's important. That's the reason I work, is so that I can go have an amazing life. But if you're using relationship capital to grow your business and then you're going to have a successful company and no relationships, you still go home a loser. And so I want to encourage you, the listener, right now to listen to what Wally is saying and go, you know what, he's right. Even if it takes me a little bit longer, man, I'm going to have dinner with my family at night. I'm going to sit with my wife and kind of debrief for the day. I'm going to put my kids in bed. I'm going to go to baseball practice when I can. There's seasons. I'm not going to get on to everybody because there's seasons that we all have to do things, but don't make it the consistency of your life being away from the family. And so we always are huge family first folks, and really pay attention to your time.
Yeah. And don't misunderstand what we're saying, because I know this to be true. Like, we've talked about this, and you think, well, you guys talking about self-discipline, you're talking about growing a business, and you got to do what you know is right, even when you don't want to. Here's also my experience. And we actually heard this a little bit from our guest last week, Seth Boeckley. He mentioned, often, and you guys have read this in books as well. Like, and if you actually have a network of other guys you can talk to that are life aligned with you, that are going through living life in a way that you're striving for, then you hear it as well. And what we hear is this, that sometimes, like, you actually slow down to go faster. Mm-hmm. When you slow down to go faster, you do the things that are important. you have that self-discipline in your family, in your personal life, to eat right, eat better, have a correct amount of physical activity, have strong relationships at home. I've talked about this before. An episode that just came out recently. It was about how our marriage affects our business, and how I didn't pay attention to my wife, my relationship with my wife, the way I should have sometimes in the beginning. And that caused all kinds of stress because I wasn't self-disciplined to do what I should have done first. And so, man, like, doing the things that matter most to us are going to help us have that self-discipline. And it's going to open up other doors for us as solopreneurs. We grow our business. Your wife, having a wife that's a cheerleader for you because you pay attention to her and how
doing it right.
Oh my gosh. Like, you want to, like, having other guys around you that, are cheerleaders for you because you've made connecting in an appropriate way with other men, that are going through similar experiences that can speak into you and challenge you and encourage you and support you. Like, talk about energy that just, like, it's like fuel to drive you. And you are so much more productive, right? When you focus and do the things that you should do.
Wally, where do you lack discipline?
I hate it when you ask these questions. I'll start off with this week. So the past few weeks, I've struggled self-discipline again. Like, I know it's right that I need to have a correct amount of physical activity. I know it's right that I need to put good fuel, good food in my body. And so this week I got, you've heard that phrase, nothing changes till you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. So I was sick and tired. And so this week, actually, it'd been about a month and I was doing okay, but I really wasn't committed. I didn't have self-discipline to do what was right because it was hard. And so this week I made a commitment that I'm going to walk 3 miles every night, and that I'm going to be intentional, more intentional. I'm intentional, but more intentional about what I eat, more about portion control this week. And so it was about eating for my meals at night. I've been eating 3/4. I'll put on my plate 3/4 of what I would normally eat. So we've gone out once and I just ate 3/4 set aside, and that works out great. A physical activity, I just said, I'm going to do it every night. And what I had to do, the thing that makes the difference for me, I'm discovering, and we all know this, just I'm almost ashamed to say it, that it's accountability. Showing ourselves accountable is important. Yeah. So the key has been, I forced myself to text one guy. I told him I was going to do it. I said, I'm going to text you every night after I eat and every night after I walk this week. And so
we need that accountability. Yeah. Because you think about that. You're like, hey, Billy, I got to text him. And if I don't, he's going to be on me tomorrow. Mine is changing, and I didn't see this coming.
What do you mean?
It's like my discipline is changing in areas like I don't need any self-discipline to work. That's zero. Like, I love to work. I need discipline. Quit working. I don't need discipline to work.
You mentioned about being like addicted to activity.
Yeah. I love to work, and like I'll work around the clock. But the place that I lacked discipline was the physical exercise, working out. And so I hired a trainer 2 years ago. And I pay him money. And that forces me to go. It's like, I'm going to get my money's worth. But I discovered about a month or 6 weeks ago that I'm starting to enjoy it. I was like, where did that come from?
You turn the corner, man. Your body's like, woo.
You know why? I saw some improvement. And when my trainer,
you see some improvement, or does your wife see some improvement?
Both. And that's really motivating. But here's the thing. My trainer told me the other day, he said, do you realize in this exercise, we've increased the weight 35%. Wow. You're getting the same amount of reps, 35%. But what I'm saying is that's motivating. That's my point. In the people that need a sense of discipline in your life, the thing that tags along with this self-discipline is consistency. And see, now I've done it 3 days a week for a couple of years. And because of that, I'm like switching my mindset. And there's an area of consistency. And when we're building a business, it requires all of us to be consistent over a long period of time. And a quick little story. I had a guy call me, I don't know, it's probably been a year ago. Those that have followed us for any length of time know that I do a lot of podcast guesting, and he called me and he said, "Hey, Big A, I'm thinking about doing that, and will you teach me how?" And I did. Got him all set up, and then about 6 weeks later, he called me back and he said, "I've stopped." And I said, "What do you mean you've stopped?" And he said, "Well, I've done a dozen episodes, and I'm not seeing any growth in my business." And I'm like, 6 weeks? Are you kidding me? And I got all over him. I was like, "I've been doing podcast guesting for 10 years. And he's like, 10 years. And I said, "Yeah, man, it takes time. And you got to do it even when you don't want to do it." And that was what you said earlier, Wally, about the consistency. If you go on your feelings, you're never going to be successful at anything, because I don't always feel like doing podcast guesting, but I know they're effective. Hopefully they're helpful. And if you do it repetitively, and I just use that as an example, there's so many other things that we need to be consistent on. I promise you, if you'll do it for a period of time, you'll see the results. And so self-discipline, man, it is paramount. Consistency is something that we've got to do. And second thing I wanted to discuss just a little bit today was the determination and resilience that we're required to do. Dr. Andy Garrett in our mastermind group has got a great program out. We've talked about it 2 or 3 times on View from the Top podcast, but that resilience is paramount. We've got to have that resilience. We've got to have determination. Wally, when you think about that, what comes to your mind when you think about having a level of determination? Like, is there an example for you in your life where you're like, "Hey, I'm determined. We're going to make this work"?
I'm actually going to look up the definition of determination real quick.
You're a wordsmith. I've learned that about you.
I love
this.
this.
Words matter.
They do. They do. It's interesting. I love this word, resolute. Like, I resolve to do something. I've used that a lot in my life. And essentially it means determination.
That's deep. When you said it like that, I felt it.
Yeah. Yeah. It means something. Like,
yeah,
I'm going to resolve to do this.
Wow.
Right. It's unwavering. It's admirably purposeful. That's what that means.
Ooh.
Yeah. Those are good words.
Yeah, they are good words.
Yeah. Man. There have been times in my life, like, you use this question a lot, what do you want? And frankly, it's a question that most guys have a hard time answering.
Yeah.
And there's been seasons of life where I've been able to be like, okay, here's what I want. I know, here's what I want. And then there's other seasons where I'm like, I don't know what I want. You just went through one of those seasons where you're like, you've been doing this for years and you're like, I know, I should know the answer.
Right.
But it changes, right?
It does change.
Yeah. And so there have been times in my life when I've been clear and had some clarity, and that takes time. So one of the things I'm learning later in life is that it's okay for things to take some time. As a solopreneur, you don't feel like you have time. It's so easy to feel like the world's crashing down on you, and you've got invoices coming in. Hopefully you're sending them out, and you're getting payments in, and expenses are going out, and often you're trying to balance that, and it's like sometimes you feel like it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back, or sometimes it's 2 steps forward and sometimes it's 3 steps back. But if you're resolved, like if you know what it is you're wanting to achieve and why it's that important. I was so resolved at different points in my life that I had a problem that I've been struggling with the last couple of years, that on the end of that is that I knew what my purpose was. I got to the end. I'm not talking about spiritual purpose. I'm talking about like about my work and even my family as becoming empty nesters at the same time of selling a business and all that. Like all of that created a moment in time where I had basically like plateaued. And, but it took a while to get there. But going back to the beginning part, it took a long time to get plateaued. But in the beginning, it was like, I had to know what I wanted. I had to know what my purpose was. And often, we mentioned passion earlier. If you're determined, it's usually because there's something that's driving you, right? And it's got to matter enough. Your why has to be big enough. for you to have that sense of determination and resilience, following through that resolve. Like, it's got to be big enough. You got to know what that is. Because if you're a solopreneur and you're starting a business and you're like, your sole reason is you want to make more money, that's probably not a big enough why, actually. It could be important.
Wally, I was going to say that. I'm glad you said that. I was waiting on you to pause for a minute to say that very thing.
Wait, you just said that? You were waiting on me to pause?
I did.
Oh my goodness, the tables have turned.
I know they have.
That's great.
The thing is money is important, and let's never miss that. I hate it when people say money's not important.
It is.
It is so important, and we need it, and I want to make more, and I want to be very intentional with what I do with it. But if that is the only reason, you're going to get tired eventually.
Do you know people like that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Their sole focus is on making X dollars.
How does it go for them? Like,
I can tell you. I'm glad you asked, Wally. I can tell you. So I've coached a lot of these guys over a period of time, and they get to a place where they go, I can buy anything I want. And I'm like, well, what do you want now? And I'm not sure. And then they think through it and they go, hey, I think if I get it to this level, then I'll feel that sense of contentment. And I'm just telling you, it's not going to happen. It's just not. You're going to keep moving the bar. You've got to have a greater. Some guys, I'm coaching a guy right now. He said, I'm making more money than I know what to do with, like literally. And I don't know that it's worth it. I said, well, we've got to have a greater why.
Everybody else, the solopreneur is thinking, what in the world? I'd love to have that problem. Yeah.
Well, sure they would. Everybody would, right? I would love to have that problem as well.
Your point is valid,
though. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that we've got to really figure out the greater why. What are you going to do with it? You're going to buy a nice house. I like a nice house. You have a nice house. We got nice cars and boats and we got all those things. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, if I'm using these skills and talents that God's given me, is there a greater purpose? Is there a greater why? Can I help some charity that I've got a passion with? Is there some nonprofit organization that I want to walk in alignment? I want to do some things for my grandkids and for my kids. And
does
I want
being
to
a
do some things in my
solopreneur
community.
allow you freedom in your schedule at all to minister in a way like you've never been able to minister before?
Well, you can make your own choices,
That's
right?
What I'm
you
saying.
can set
you
your own
freedom.
schedule, right?
Yeah.
You've got the freedom to be able to do that. But back to, we have to be clear on our vision, and we have to have other people around us that can guide us and hold us accountable and direct us and be those trusted advisors and say, hey, am I missing anything? And you've got people around you that you can throw it out to, and you can go, I'm resolved, as you said. I love that. You've made me feel good. I feel warm when I say that word now. I'm resolute that I'm going to accomplish this thing. That's where that determination kicks in, and you go, you know what? I'm going to accomplish this thing because I feel passionate about it. I know that I'm going to be able to help other people. I'm going to help my family go to the next level. I'm going to create a space that is really comfortable to be in. And then but see, here's what we have to have. We have to have the vision. We have to have the roadmap. You're not going to get anywhere without some sense of vision. And I encourage everyone to write it down, to be very clear. And it doesn't have to be for eternity. It can be for 2 to 5 years. Then reassess. You said something earlier, and you even said it on the last episode that we did, that things change. And I want to make that crystal clear for those that are listening today. We think that we're going to establish a pattern and we're going to do this for the rest of our life and then we're going to quit. And I just want to be the first to tell you, if you've never heard it, things change, and they seem to change more often than I remember preparing for. And it's like life throws you curves, and you have children and you move and your job gets canceled or you change your passion. And it's like, so focus 2 to 5 years and really establish a good plan for that.
That's kind of the third, I think it's the third trait, is embracing change.
It is. Yeah. It is. Yeah. Preparing to adapt.
Yeah. You're spot on that God says in Proverbs 16:9, it says, man makes his plans and God directs his steps.
Yeah.
Man, that has been one of my life passages of scripture that I keep going back to, because it tells me, right, that I need to have determination, right? I need to have self-discipline, that God calls me to have a plan.
Right.
He calls me to work. Maybe it's for a topic for a different day, and maybe I'm weird. I know I'm weird, but maybe you think I'm weird.
I'm glad you clarified that before it was my turn. So
it never occurred to me till the last couple of years that Adam still worked in the garden before sin.
Yeah.
We think of sin as a curse. I said, if you think of work,
that work is a curse.
Work is a part of the curse.
Right.
Well, I know that there's weeds and the Bible talks about those kinds of things, but there was still like beneficial work that God designed us as humans to do. So that's been a simple, like in my work that I'm called to do, and I make plans because God tells me to do that. But then I really look to him for wisdom, for understanding. I need to have knowledge of scripture. I need to get with the wisdom of counsel of those around me. And through that, I can discern. And so the application of knowledge is wisdom. And knowing that has helped me a ton as a solopreneur to be able to, because things do change so rapidly.
Wally, I like change. A lot of people are like, I don't like change. Listen, the thing that's helped me the most in my career is I embrace change. I do. I like it. I'm like, what is this going to make possible?
You just don't like Dan Miller. Gym.
I don't like, no. Well, I've learned to, I've embraced it, right? And I've been consistent. Right. So I'm starting to change.
Been. Good job. Yeah, it's been a couple of years.
So, here's the thing. We got to get used to trying new tactics because there are so many opportunities out there today to do things different. It's not the same because most markets always change. They do. And we've got to stay on the leading edge of that. Technology is happening today faster than ever before. Like used to, and I don't know the stats, you probably know them better than I do. Like used to when, I was young, it was like every 20 years. Now it's like every 6 months.
It's fast. I don't know if it's 6 months fast.
Yeah, I don't know. It's ridiculous how fast things are changing now. But then the other thing is customers' needs are always changing, right? And so if we embrace the idea of change and adapt and be willing to pivot, really the most growth has come at a time of change. Normally, I stayed in things too long when I was younger, and it was like, man, I'm missing out here. There's other better ways to do this. I need to adapt. And some of it can be exhilarating. Some of it's kind of frightening, to be honest with you, but this is a journey. Being a solopreneur is fun, and you're able to adapt and pivot quicker than if you had a larger team. And so, don't be afraid to embrace change. And then final, before we end today, is vision. We talked about it just a little bit earlier, but without vision, Scripture teaches us that the people perish. And I've had a vision over the course of my life, but never structured like I have in the past 10 years. And numbers of guys, and Wally, primarily you, have really helped me articulate that and get it in a written document so that we can share it with the team, so that we can share it with the people that follow us. The vision is really, really helpful. And what experiences, Wally, have you had with vision and with the lack of vision?
Yeah, I think the thing that I don't know, I kind of feel a little weird saying this. And, but the last probably few years, even at View from the Top and ISI, that there's been an evolving vision. And at times, just again, being frank, right? Because we all experience these things. There's been times where there's been a little lull in the vision, and we've had to come back to it, right? And we've had to get help with it. So that's been the most recent, close to my vest, right? Experience with vision, as you're looking at from your seat, the organization that you've built. And I think even in a previous podcast, I think with Seth last episode, you just alluded to, like, over time, how things that get you somewhere to a certain point in business aren't the things that get you, somewhere else. And so you had a vision to get to a certain point in business. And now you've had to rethink that, what that vision looks like for the future, and get the resources and people around you to help you accomplish that. I think that was, me when I started out as a solopreneur all the way back in 2001. One of the very first books I read was The E-Myth. And I was kind of grew up with, in business, for 4 or 5, I said grew up. My experience with business was really in multi-level, what do you call them? Not pyramid schemes, but a lot of people refer to them as that way. But what do you call them? Multi-level
marketing?
Yeah, multi-level marketing. That's it. Why I couldn't think of that. So anyway, my experience with that early on, in health products, and Amway was one of them, and phone cards. I don't know if you remember when phone cards were a thing.
I do remember. I hadn't ever thought about that till you just said it, but I do remember those.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That is crazy.
But there was multi-level marketing companies that were around those products, and some of those products were really good. Matter of fact, one of those products I still use today as a health product, and I enjoy that. But they had a ton of like helpful materials like in those businesses about vision and growth, and so I got a taste of that there, and that helped me as I went into being a solopreneur. So my point is, for the solopreneur that's listening, reading books, getting it, in around now today. Back then, there wasn't organizations, like ISI Community. They didn't exist. They just weren't around. And so really, as a solo entrepreneur today, you have no excuses, right? To be familiar with what vision looks like and goal setting looks like. And there's plenty of tools out there. We have one in the community, the ISI membership, called Come As You Will Be. And that's been developed over the years, but basically what it is it helps you identify, we call the ISI 5 pillars of the ISI man. And those revolve around, personal and spiritual and relational and financial and professional. And so we cover those 5 areas, and we draw out like what it looks like. A goal is good to have to look forward, but most people say, I want to. But we've taken that a little bit further, and we've written it out like when we write out according to our Come As You Will Be, write it out as like it's already happened like a year or 2 or 3 years down the road.
Yeah.
And it just gives you a whole different perspective on how you go about accomplishing your goals.
Right.
And they still, going back, a lot of our goals we've seen with the guys, you and I, and we've experienced that they change. Like as a solopreneur, a small business owner, you're going to have to pivot. I'm not talking about like the guys that just follow like the squirrel in the rabbit trails, right? They're just like following the next thing, right? Change here, change here. When you talk about pivot or change your tactics, you're not talking about that.
No, not the
right?
vision.
Not at all.
Just the methodology.
Right. One of the things that's helped me in my business over time as part of my vision is we actually have a set of criteria that we use that I've developed over years. We use it in ISI today. Basically, it's our business decision criteria. And I think there's 8 questions on there that we have to ask if we're going to make like a pivot or a big tactic change. And so we're not 100%. We don't ask ourselves all the questions all the time, but often we do. And
it's very helpful.
Yeah, it is very helpful. And so those types of things have been very good. To help get that vision established, get those goals established, not be afraid to change, and just be mindful of pivoting, not following the squirrel, right? And kind of staying on track. We use the words, one of ours is we don't follow fads, we follow trends. So that's like one of our principles.
I think one of the most helpful things that I've personally done over a 10-year period is writing the vision down, because it's jumbled up in your head and you can't articulate it clearly to your spouse or to your team members or to your colleagues. But when it's written and you can go back and revisit that and say, hey, I'm on track or I'm not. This has changed, and it's okay to change this thing, but it's ever before you and you can see it. And so it's just been really helpful to me personally. Hopefully it will be to you. As we wrap up today's episode, I want you to really think about these 4 essential traits that every solo entrepreneur should embrace. First of all, there was the self-discipline. And I personally think that's paramount. We've got to have the self-discipline in our life in order to be successful. If you structure your day and you stay consistent and you find some level of accountability in your life to keep you moving forward, just like I've done since I was 18 years old, I promise you'll have a measure of success. The next thing is think about your level of determination and resilience, because I think these are required. I think we've got to have a level of determination, resolve. And we talked about that earlier. Hopefully it made you feel as convicted as it did me to think about, am I resolved to the thing that I'm doing today? And then we just got to know that we're going to expect rejection. It's going to happen. There's going to be challenges that come up in our life, but let them fuel that growth for your perseverance, for that vision that you've established that we've been talking about. And then third, be ready to adapt. We want to be agile. We want to be able to move. And you can do that as a solopreneur. Nothing works exactly as planned. There's just no way that you can lay it out clearly and it happen exactly like that. So embrace the change and keep learning to stay competitive. And then finally, never lose sight of your vision. It's your guiding light. There is no question about it. Keep it before you at all times. Create a vision board if you need to, but have it in your office, have it in your home, have it at a place that's easily accessible, because it helps you set those goals and maintain that passion that will drive you to have that sought after view from the top.
Hey guys, thanks again for listening in so much today. I hope that you were able to take away something from this. Whether you're a solopreneur, whether you're a small business owner, these principles are solid for you. So follow through on them. Man, we'd love to have you as part of the ISI community. If you're a solopreneur, small business owner, a business leader, and man, you're out there working hard to figure it out on your own, and you really need somebody, being at the top of the food chain and as a leader is tough. So you need people around you. So I encourage you to go check out the ISI community. You can do that by going to isibrotherhood.com, find the community in there, and we're happy to give you, as part of being a listener to this group, just of this podcast, to give you 30 days free, just to check that out. So you can use POD 30, that's POD 30 as your code when you check out, and you'll give you those 30 days free. So hope to see you there, and we'll for sure see you next week.